Hello everyone, welcome back to round 6 of the 2018 Chess Olympiad. We have a very exciting game on table 2 board number 1 between Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Vassily Ivanchuk. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Duda, he is a very promising youngster from Poland with a rating close to 2740. Ivanchuk, on the other hand, really needs no further introduction. He is one of the best and most creative players in the world. So in this game, Duda had the white pieces and Ivanchuk had black. So let's see how it goes. On the board, we have c4, the English opening, knight to f6, knight to c3, d5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, knight f3, g6. Ivanchuk is preparing to fianchetto this bishop. Queen to b3, this comes with a tempo on the knight. And with the queen no longer on d1, this rook could swing over to the central file. Knight to b6, d4, gaining space in the center and also preparing to develop this bishop. Bishop to g7, bishop f4, and here if bishop takes d4, then rook to d1 wins the piece. White is simply going to play e3. So here we have bishop to e6 with a tempo on white's queen, queen to a3, black castles, e3, opening up this bishop, knight 8 to d7, rook to d1, Ivanchuk plays c6, stopping white from going d5, and also supporting the knight to d5 for black. We have knight to g5 from Duda attacking this bishop. Bishop comes to f5, e4, bishop g4, and here white can play f3 with a tempo on this bishop, but here black has a very nice response, e5. So if this bishop is taken, black simply captures white's bishop. So this knight is now under fire, and after knight to f3, here black can break open the center with c5. And also with ideas of increasing the scope of the dark square bishop. And here if white goes d5, well, for one, this gives black the e5 square, but black can have a very nice position after taking on c3. And after queen takes c3, rook to e8, black has very nice pressure in this position on the e-pawn. And here if white decides to take the pawn, then after h6, here if knight to h3, then you simply take the knight. And then you play queen to e8, unpinning from this rook, and also looking at e5. And this is also very pleasant for black. So after black plays h6, here the best move for white is h4. After pawn takes g5, bishop takes g5, queen c7, and after white captures the bishop, you take on e5 with the queen. The computer thinks this position is equal, but I'm sure any human would rather be black in this position because white's king is rather exposed. So after bishop g4, Duda plays bishop e2, and white doesn't really need to worry about e5 because he can simply take the bishop, and after e takes f4, he can retreat the knight, or he can play h4. And white is doing fine in this position because of his space advantage, and also these nice pawns in the center. So here bishop takes e2, knight takes e2, and queen to e8 from Ivanchuk. This makes room for the rook to come to d8, and also black is simply threatening to strike with e5. Queen to h3 from Duda, threatening mate. And here black can play h6 or h5. Let's see what happens if he plays h5. Then here white has g4, just threatening to take here. And if this knight, you try to kick this knight with f6, then now it can come to e6, attacking this rook. And after rook f7, you have knight to c7, winning the exchange. So here if, knight to f6 from black, then you simply take on h5. And then you play knight to g3, and white has a very strong attack. So here h6 first from Ivanchuk, kicking this knight back, and then h5. With the knight no longer on g5, white still can play g4, but it is not going to be as effective. Duda plays e5, stopping e5 from black himself, but this does allow the d5 square for black's knight, which he occupies immediately. Duda plays g4, and here black can play a very interesting move, knight 7 to f6. Just preparing to meet g takes h5 with knight takes h5. And here if white takes the knight, then black recaptures with the pawn, opening up the e-file for the queen, and the immediate threat is knight takes bishop. So after queen to g3, you simply take the pawn, and this is a very easy position for black to play. So after g4, there was no knight 7 to f6 from Ivanchuk, but instead queen to c8. So Ivanchuk is sensing the danger in this position, and he is preparing to first move this rook out of the way, and then reroute the knight to f8 to hold the g6 pawn. Queen to h4 from Duda, so what's the point behind this move? Here if white plays g takes h5, then black has a very nice tactical shot. Knight takes e5. And if queen takes c8, then knight takes f3 and black is up a piece. So here queen to h4, we have rook to d8, so preparing knight f8, g takes h5, knight f8, h takes g6, knight takes g6, and here queen to g3. Queen to f5 from Ivanchuk, so centralizing his queen with a tempo on the bishop. Bishop c1, king f8, so Ivanchuk wants to flee this king away from the king side. h4 from Duda, a good move, with the idea of simply ramming the h-pawn down the board and trying to queen it. Queen to h5 from Ivanchuk, so this stops the pawn for the moment. And here one of the ideas for white is to play rook to g1, threatening to play e6, and if black stops that, then you play knight to g5. The threat is to play knight takes e6 followed by queen takes g6. And there isn't really a good way for black to stop this. If for example something like bishop h6, then you take on e6, take on g6, and after queens are traded off, then this would be a very nice endgame for white. He has an extra pawn and also a very nice passed pawn on the h-file. But here Duda plays queen to g2, which is also a good move. The idea is to play knight g5, and then you play queen to f3, attacking f7 and also this queen, and this sort of forces an exchange of queens. King to e8, we have knight g5, bishop h6, queen to f3, queen takes f3, knight takes f3, bishop takes c1, rook takes c1, and here f6 from Ivanchuk. So black wants to play king to f7, and this would allow the rook to come over to h8. Duda plays king to d2 with the idea of rook g1. We have king f7, rook c to g1, and here a blunder from Ivanchuk, rook to h8. And after e6 from Duda, Ivanchuk resigned because this knight is simply falling. After something like king g7, then you play h5, and this knight will be taken on the next move. A very nice game from Jan-Krzysztof Duda, showing a lot of maturity and composure for someone so young. So I hope to see a lot more of him in the future. And on the other tables, Mamyadorov managed to win his game against Navarra, and also Caruana managed to win as well. So these two are definitely on fire with 3 wins in a row. So I'll try to cover at least one of these games. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please subscribe for more updates on the Chess Olympiad. Thank you for watching and have a great day.